record button. My clock says 1:20, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our Family Engagement to Leadership, the Commonwealth Institute for Parent Leadership. You're going to learn the benefits of having family leaders who are able to serve in leadership roles, contribute to solutions for academic challenges, and make decisions on councils and committees. You'll learn how to connect family leaders to training through the Commonwealth Institute for Parent Leadership and access the CIPL engagement activities that can be implemented in the school and level community. We're so thankful to have Laura Beard here with us today. She's a resident of Bracken County and joined the Pritchard Committee for Academic Excellence staff in August of 2019, right before COVID, and serves as the director for the Commonwealth Institute for Parent Leadership. She holds a BS in Human Sciences and Human Services from the University of the Cumberlands and has more than 15 years of experience leading family engagement initiatives. She's previously served as the family consultant for the Department for Public Health and the lead family contact for 2 systems of care, SAM/SHA grants. And she has 3 children, and she serves on our local Frisky Advisory Council and is involved in foster adoptive support work. That is awesome. And so thank you for being here today, Laura, and take it away.
Thank you for having me, Mary. As Mary mentioned, I came to the Pritchard Committee in 2019 and became the director for the Commonwealth Institute for Parent Leadership. We call it CIPL for short because it's a very lengthy name. CIPL is celebrating 27 years of family leadership in Kentucky, and I hope to introduce you to CIPL if it's new to you. If you already know a little bit about CIPL, I hope to invite you to learn more about how we've restructured how we engage with families over the last 5 years. The Pritchard Committee was lucky to have a statewide family engagement center grant that really kicked off in 2019, and we just wrapped up prior to beginning our Kentucky Community Schools Initiative. But what that really provided us with was a nice solid family and community engagement pillar of work that would easily transition into our new grant endeavors with the community schools. So I'm just really excited to share with you guys today about how you can take some of these strategies if you're looking to increase your family school partnerships. So I just want to stop here for a second and just share that one of the exciting things that we've done over the past few years has really been reaching out to our English learning families. So families who are newcomers to Kentucky, newcomers to the school, or families who just are in need of some basic knowledge around Kentucky education because there's a language barrier. And so this is just a picture from a recent night that we hosted in Scott County. We have a group in Scott County, in Fayette County, and in Clark County. And previously have done a lot of work in Northern Kentucky with our English language learning families. And so CIPL really exists to encourage and involve families in education of their own student, but not just their own student, but all students. So what we've learned is that when families engage and become partners in the school, they really take on the ownership and responsibility to help find solutions for all students. So they move beyond being involved and passionate about the work for their own student, but really take on the collective care and responsibility of affecting change for all students. So our agenda for 30 minutes is just to kind of talk about what defines family leadership, what some of the barriers to leadership are, and then some concrete strategies for family school partnerships. I just wanted to stop here and share. I'm not going to read all of this to you, but there's been a wealth of research done in family engagement over the years. Hopefully you've heard a little bit about that. There's the dual capacity framework with Dr. Karen Mapp. We've been lucky enough to have consultant Ann Henderson, who's worked with Dr. Mapp, and also Dr. Joyce Epstein consult with us in Kentucky for many years. But I'm showing Epstein's 6 types of parental involvement because I think it resonates with what most of us have kind of seen in terms of how families can be involved, engaged, and then serve in leadership. So just thinking here about these 6 types, we're really looking at parents having skills and knowledge, learning about parenting in general, learning about how to support their student at home. The communication between home and school is a type of engagement, encouraging volunteering at school and in the community. So parents who are showing up, volunteering at the school, connecting with the school in many ways, and offering their services. Supporting student learning at home, so intentional home reinforcement of the work that's happening at school. And then we have parents who can serve in involvement and decision-making and advocacy for the school. And just to take a brief moment to talk about the history of Pritchard, which is, we're in, just celebrated our 40 years. And it was really necessary with Kentucky education reform and some of the changes that we have parent voice. And so the creation of SBDMs, the Frisk Advisory Councils, the many different ways that parents could represent and be a part of decision-making led to the development and the institute itself of SIPL, the need to train parents so that they had an understanding of Kentucky public education and so that they could look at things like budgets, understand school report cards, just be in the know so that they can represent parents and families across the state. And so type 6 is really where we're bringing in families, schools, and communities. So how do we all work together? What does that partnership and coordination of services and supports look like? And how do we build those trusting partnerships amongst the 3 groups? I like this graphic. I've been showing it quite a bit. It did cut off a little bit here when we formatted slides. So the little gray boxes at the bottom or the pillars at the bottom should really be the district support, the district infrastructure. And so without our schools supporting parent engagement and parent leadership, there is no engagement and leadership. And so from the history and research around what makes strong family leadership, we know that the responsibility does lie on the district and school to really build that relationship. But I like this graphic because it shows the responsibility of both the families and parents and the educators. And so to get strong family leadership, you've really got to build parent capacity. So training, skill building, some of the things that we're going to talk about, strategies, and even what we do in SIPL. And then that sense of community. So how do parents feel that they belong? How do they fit in with other parents? How do they connect with the school in a meaningful way? And on the other side, you've got educator capacity around family engagement. Some of you are here today to learn more about family engagement. So making sure that our teacher prep programs are touching on the subject, and not only just touching on it, but actually providing real experience in how to make calls home, a welcoming environment in the school, and working on that end so that we make sure that our new teachers are coming in prepped and ready to go to engage with families. And then we've also got educator and family collaboration. So how do we take that sense of community for families and kind of marry that with educators? How do we have conversations where educators and families are in the room, sharing ideas, being innovative together, focusing on solutions? All of those things together really create strong family leadership and make it possible to be successful. So I'm going to talk a little bit about defining what leadership looks like. And I want to stress that I think sometimes we can get really stuck in thinking about family engagement and even leadership in 2 ways. The first way we think about it is that families have a responsibility to help their student at home, to reinforce what they're learning at school. And that's absolutely true. The second way we think about family engagement is through resources. What resources do our families need, and how do we get them connected to those resources? When we're talking about more meaningful engagement and even moving into leadership, we're talking about a much bigger role, a much more diverse role in the school than just those two ways. So part of that is participating in school-based activities and showing signs of expanding involvement and co-creating with educators. Families who are repeatedly coming back to more and more events, families who are showing up for meetings, those families are showing a sense of willingness to do more, and we should move them from just being involved to co-creating with us. Family leaders seek out other community groups and agencies in touch with schools to increase the resources available to educational programs. Parents who might be involved in multiple systems or serving as parent representatives in multiple systems are looking at ways to help support the school. They're trying to connect resources to the school. They're telling educators about resources they're seeking out and finding. Family leaders run for elected positions, and they become integral members of a variety of decision-making and advisory bodies. So we want parents to be filling the roles of elected positions. And what we hear from the field oftentimes is we can't find minority representation. We can't find parents to fill our Frisk Advisory Council roles. We can't find parents to serve on SBDM. And many of our local school boards go without family representation. So we'll talk a little bit about what might be some of the barriers, but we want there to be a lot of people vying for these positions. And at the beginning of SIPL, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, what we really found was that a lot of parents applying for the fellowship or coming through SIPL were running for office. They were wanting these positions. And we've seen a decline over the last decade or so with folks like seeking out those positions. And so we need to kind of look at what's happening. Why are parents not as eager to serve in those ways? Family leaders have influence over educational decisions and programs rather than merely being involved participants in the community. So how do families have the ability to kind of evaluate programs, to give feedback on how things are working, or to suggest possible ideas for the future? And then lastly, family leaders represent and share experiences of other families within the school or district in meaningful ways. So good family leaders are not just representing themselves or their family, they're representing families in the community, families in the district. So you want someone who is in touch with some of the things that are going on with families in that school or district. I thought you might be interested in seeing this survey slide here that we were able to get from our statewide family engagement center work. So we worked with New York University on our grant report. And this is one of the slides I pulled out. Families from across Kentucky who participated in the study identified these specific barriers to family engagement. So I'm going to just pause here for a second and let you kind of look at this. And if anybody has any feedback, feel free to either, can they unmute, Mary? Okay, unmute or use the chat box. Anything that surprises you, anything that's not on here that you think is a barrier in your school or district? And this is engagement. So this is overall engagement. This isn't narrowly focused on leadership, but I think some of these things reign true to leadership opportunities as well. I've presented on this before, and there was someone who had a question around transportation, just felt like that was low. We think primarily because had this question been asked prior to COVID, probably would have been higher, but I do think there's some more hybrid opportunities for families to participate now than there were before. And then some schools have really worked with their community to figure out transportation issues for families.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat yet, Laura.
Okay, thanks, Mary. So let's just break down a few of these. Let's talk a little bit about busyness. And you can either do like a show of hands or you can just pop it in the chat. But if this applies to you, so step out of your professional role, taking on any new endeavor, is busyness a factor for you? And I can't see everybody, but I would assume that it probably is, because when we pull any room that we're in around busy schedules, everybody feels a little taxed right now. Um, I don't know where to contribute all of that to, but I will say that we know families have overloaded schedules. Some attribute to athletics, extracurricular activities that their kids are involved in. Many, it's just a matter of, if it's a two-parent household, both parents work. And so any time after work is kind of considered valuable time, and people are collectively needing to do less. Any other thoughts here? Moving on to childcare. It has been more acceptable, I think, to not only allow children to participate sometimes in meetings or events as necessary, but also to arrange for childcare and to make sure that you have some type of child activities um, available if parents have to bring a child with them to a meeting or to an event. And so just recognizing that young children need some type of supervision. And if you don't have that option, you're going to limit the ability for some of your families to participate. The next one I want to talk about and showed up on our surveying was how it will impact my student. So as we lead our fellowship group, and that's comprised of around 30 parents across the state who go through our monthly webinars and make up our statewide class, we come back to this subject quite a bit in terms of encouraging them to run for local school board or serve on their SBDM. They are consistently concerned about how it will impact their student, and especially political races. I know some of our bigger districts deal with headline news. Board elections can get a little dicey at times. We have families who share their concerns around cliques that might exist within family leadership or engagement in their schools. I'm not a part of that group, so I don't feel like I can be a part of that committee or council. The same parents do the same things. The trusting relationship comes up. I want to be able to join a group, serve on a council, but I want to be able to be honest and it not reflect on my student or myself. And then there are equity issues of making sure that our families who are not represented feel that they can serve in that way. They should be serving in that way. They should be sought after to serve on committees and councils. They should be approached and nominated to do so without the worry of how it will affect their student. But I'll just share that this is something that consistently is brought up, is that I would love to do more, but I worry about the impact that it will have on my student. So in that space, I would encourage anyone who's maybe never thought through that lens and just wondered, well, I can't get any parents to do this. Think about what may be the implications for them beyond the time, beyond the childcare. Maybe sit down with them and have a conversation around what keeps them from taking that extra step to run for that office or serve in that way. The next one I hear a lot about, and most recently attended an event where this was brought up, is I'm not sure who and I'm not sure how. So one of our standard presentations we have in our fellowship, and we also do in multiple settings, is to really talk about what opportunities exist for parents in Kentucky. So there are many ways that parents can serve in Kentucky in leadership roles, all the way from the State Board of Education, which has a parent, a SIPL fellow on it right now, to local school boards, SBDMs that we already talked about, but even in our community organizations, behavioral health has parent representatives, Head Start has parent representatives, other early childhood groups have parent representatives. PTA, PTO. There are so many ways that parents can serve as leaders, but sometimes they don't know how. How do I get started? How do I even find out if that position is open? And you might be thinking, well, my goodness, we post it on every Facebook page we have. We send it out in newsletters. We're doing all we can to recruit. We just don't have parents interested. There's a miscommunication there for in terms of how parents are getting that information, because we do hear from parents that they're just not hearing about it. And we'll talk a little bit about a strategy that might help with that in a couple of slides. The last one here I want to talk about is language. And my work with the ELL communities across our state really enlightened me and helped me understand the real barriers that not only do they have some of the same barriers that we've already talked about, but piled on top of that, there's a language barrier. Materials aren't translated in their language. If there's an event and there's no interpreter there, they might be filling a seat, but they don't have any idea what's happening in that space. So many of our families want to engage in that way, but if there's not appropriate accommodations made for them to do that, they're not able to because of the language barrier. So I'm referenced the dual capacity framework by Dr. Karen Mapp, which is something that we have really used as our framework to build the statewide family engagement center in Kentucky. So some areas to support to develop family engagement, but also family leadership is these 4 components. We call them the 4 C's. It's capabilities of families, connections for families, confidence for families, and cognition. And I want to say the skills and knowledge I think we do a lot in those areas, but as far as capabilities, but we really miss the opportunity for connections. And I say that because we have a lot of parents who feel disconnected from their community and their school and other parents. And imagine what we could do if we were intentional to build connections. So I'm going to throw an example out of a Frisk Advisory Council. If you have 2 parents serving in that role and they only see each other at meetings, and you're not providing an opportunity in the meeting to network, it would be up to them to make that connection outside of that meeting. Many of the parents I talk to are like, I serve with somebody else, but I don't know who that person is. There's no real connection between the 2 parents. So my suggestion is that you take a little bit of time, and this benefits everyone in the group. But you take a little bit of time at each meeting and you do a little networking activity, 5-10 minutes at the beginning. Have people pair up with each other, just mingle, chat, network. You'd be surprised at how you can retain parents once a connection is made, when parents meet with other parents. It's hard to make, I say this a lot, but it's hard to make friends as an adult. We hear from parents, I'm new to the community. I don't know any of my child's friends, parents. There's no opportunities for us to meet. It's not like it used to be where you met people at school parties and things like that. So our schools could really capitalize on just hosting events focused on networking, and move away a little bit from just making sure there's always a topic and a guest speaker. And those things are fine. But if you're not building in some intentional connection, then you're really missing an opportunity, not only for the parents to connect with each other, but for the parents to connect with the educators that might be in attendance. The next is confidence. So I shared that there are many ways parents can serve, but a lot of parents are intimidated when a budget is laid in front of them, or a decision is on the table about something, a new program for the school, or something that's going to impact students. And having the confidence to make decisions is really important. Otherwise, you have a parent who's filling a seat, and if they're not feeling confident to share and support the work, then they're probably not going to stick with it. They need to feel that there's a purpose. And a lot of feedback we get from parents is, I've been asked to do something, but I wasn't given much information about it. I was just told to show up. Consider, orientations for things. Consider a sit down before a parent takes on a new role, something to kind of acclimate them to what time commitment it's going to be, um, how much is going to be involved, like how much work is actually going to be involved beyond the meetings, and then what things they might need to brush up on. Acronyms. A lot of our parents are hit with acronyms that even we struggle to remember because there's so many of them. So if they're going to be meeting on a regular basis, it might be nice to put together a tip sheet. Here are the acronyms. Here's what they mean. Here's going to be your responsibility in the meeting, things you might want to brush up on. And then really helping to establish where families are, their assumptions about how schools run, operate, their beliefs about education. All of these ways within the 4 C's are going to help you kind of cultivate parent leaders who are going to serve in more meaningful ways than if you um, don't have that intentionality around making sure that they have the resources and supports they need to serve in that way. So let's talk a little bit about strategies. And I want to say that I just sometimes use a really quick assessment when I'm meeting with a new group of parents. I might say things like, if you're not sure why you're here, raise your hand. If you come to everything the school does, raise your hand. Or if you are seeking opportunities, raise your hand. Or if you really want to be a leader, raise your hand. Something as simple as that can kind of get get you to kind of feel where parents are at. So if you invite parents to attend something, kind of feel the room for parents who might bubble up as leaders, parents who might want to do more. That's going to also involve matching people with their passions. So I'll share an example that a parent who we worked with a few years ago in our fellowship, she really wanted to be more involved in her school, but she didn't really want to serve on any councils or committees. And one of the things we do in our fellowship is we encourage them to take on some of those roles. And she was a little reluctant, and she's like, I know it's kind of a requirement to finish the fellowship, but I'm new to Kentucky. I came through the fellowship to learn more, but I'm not ready to jump into a role just yet. But she was very artistic and had some ideas of how she could support the school. And so she talked with her, one of her projects was to talk with her principal about painting bathroom stalls with inspirational messages for students. And so that's something I think was trendy a few years back, and people were doing and painting murals throughout the school. And so she wasn't ready to serve on a committee or council, but her passion was art. And she was able to kind of come into the school and provide that for the students, and did some work in the restrooms and stuff on the stalls. Offer virtual meeting options in childcare. We've already talked a little bit about childcare being a barrier. Offering virtual meetings has been really helpful for a lot of our families. I'm currently working with a group of grand families, kind of learning from them, and they're learning a little bit from me, but I think I'm learning more from them. So we have a cohort of grand families and kinship care providers. I would say most of the people in the group are older and do face some challenges around using technology. So for them, in-person meetings are still very important. I've tried to do a couple of virtual things with them, and they've said, no, we want to do in person. So I think it's knowing your audience, but whenever you can offer a hybrid solution, you're going to get more input, you're going to get more voices at the table, and that's going to be important. I've heard from families that during COVID, virtual meetings were like an option, and then some people moved away from it, and it really limited their ability to attend when their virtual meeting couldn't occur. So many of our families are willing to even take their lunch break in their workplace to jump on a virtual meeting if at all possible. The next one I really want to is important, and what we're hearing from parents all over the state. And we've had some school districts even recognize it as a problem and have worked on some solutions, but that is to simplify communication. So I know apps um, are a really nice way to communicate. And I know that we've got a lot of companies pushing apps. They're at every event I go to. They've got a new app, and this app does this and can remind parents of that. It's a lot to keep up with. You've got passwords and logins, and some schools have multiple apps. And what we're hearing is that when there's so much information, it's hard to distill down into it. It's also easy to ignore it because it piles up so quickly. If you get an email and a text message and a notification on Facebook, you're almost oversaturating the communication space, and therefore no communication is hitting where it needs to. So some of our districts have recognized this and are moving to one form of communication. Not that they don't have other ways to communicate, but there is one way that is consistent and has all the information. So just think about it, if you can, just uh, start to calculate the different ways that maybe your district communicates. I can think about Facebook pages for every school, the district website. Um, we've got Twitter accounts, some Instagram accounts. We've got newsletters. We've got Dojo. We've got Google Classroom. We've got Infinite Campus. We've got Remind Text. The list goes on and on. There are some apps that have recognized that this is a problem, and so they're trying to sway districts and schools to their app, which is the app that captures everything. I do think that that could be a solution, but it really feels like we need to move to better communication, and that simple is better, and less complicated. So, how much time do I have left? Like now I'm done?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to just leave these strategies here. Hopefully you had a chance to kind of look through them. And then what we have is training coming up, and it's located in your grid. So if you go to the breakout session, the PowerPoint is there. The training announcement is there, the Eventbrite invitation. My email address is there, and I appreciate you joining today and hope that we might catch you at our 3-day training on how to be a facilitator for SIPL in your school. And that's February 26th through the 28th.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. I know
Thank you,
that
Nick.
time gets away from us, doesn't it? It just sneaks up on us. But great job and wonderful information. It is 1:52. I'm gonna stop